After the engagement party, I unexpectedly walked in on my sister and my fiancé in a close embrace. My sister casually said they couldn't help themselves and urged me not to take it to heart. The next day, my parents came to me, insisting I break off the engagement and let my sister have him. I refused their demand, which led them to orchestrate my death in a staged accident. My sister suffered from a genetic disease, and my kidney was a perfect match for her. Meanwhile, my fiancé was unemployed, and my family conveniently transferred control of my company to him. After my demise, my ashes were carelessly discarded into a filthy ditch, allowing them to live their lives in peace and happiness. But then, when I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in the moment when my parents asked me to break off the engagement. Chapter 1. A sigh drifted down from above me. Mia, don't blame your mother for being biased. You know your sister's health condition. Now that she wants to be with James, just let her have him and break up with him, okay? You're young, beautiful, and healthy. You can find any man you want. Why hang your hopes on this one tree? My mother reached out and took my hand. Get up and talk to James. Stop being stubborn with your father and me. Your sister is making a scene, threatening to hurt herself and talking about running away from home. You've always been the obedient one, so don't act like her and be willful. My mind went blank for a moment. The pain from the car accident seemed to linger, yet here I was, witnessing my parents urging me to give up my boyfriend for my sister. It took a while to realize that I had been reborn. Reborn on the eve of that absurd breakup. In my previous life, after my birthday party, I stumbled upon my sister and my fiancé hugging each other. Her excuse was, we drank too much and couldn't help ourselves. The next day, my parents pressured me to break off my engagement with James. I agreed. But it was messy. Not only did I create a scene at James' workplace, publicly exposing his affair with my sister, but I also took it online. My sister couldn't bear the accusations and ridicule and resorted to drinking to escape. Her genetic polycystic kidney disease required her to abstain from smoking and drinking. After another drinking binge, she lay in the ICU for more than 50 hours. She nearly lost her life. My parents loathed me for this. And James, who lost his job because of me, also despised me. Ironically, after losing his job, he took over my father's company. My father left me nothing in his will. Later, when my sister needed a kidney transplant due to kidney failure, my parents abandoned me, who needed urgent treatment after the accident, and signed the consent to withdraw care for me. They quietly waited for me to die. After my death, both of my kidneys were transplanted to my sister. And my ashes? My parents tossed them into a filthy ditch. Chapter 2. My thoughts pulled back from the memories. I looked at my parents, who were gazing at me expectantly. I nodded obediently. Mom, Dad, I'll listen to you. Since my sister and James love each other, I'll let them be together. My mother looked shocked, clearly not expecting my quick agreement. She patted my hand reassuringly. My father let out a long sigh of relief. Mia, I'm sorry you had to go through this. Don't worry, your mom and I will make it up to you. I heard you started a media company. I'll invest $10,000 in it. It's tough to start a business these days. I forced a smile. Thank you, Mom and Dad. $10,000. My sister's handbag costs more than that. My father gave James shares worth millions. The support for my business was just $10,000. But it was better than nothing. After all, they no longer had a legal obligation to support me, and $10,000 would cover a few months' salaries for my small team of 4. My father continued his fake comforting words. Meanwhile, my mother walked out with a smile. Soon, I overheard her lowered voice. But the door wasn't fully closed, so I could hear everything clearly. Sweetie, that girl has agreed to break up with James. Come back quickly. If this continues, your father and I might die from worry. My sister said something on the other end of the phone. My mother stomped her foot and scolded lovingly. Do you think I'd team up with that girl to trick you? I must have owed you in my past life. I promise, once you come back, I'll get you that sports car you've been eyeing. But you must not speed. The doctor said your condition can't handle sudden blood pressure changes. My father, overhearing, smiled awkwardly at me and then walked out, closing the door behind him. Keep your voice down. She can hear everything inside. That was my father's voice. Let her hear. I'm not afraid of her. I gave birth to her, her life is mine to give. Letting her give up her boyfriend for her sister is nothing. My mother raised her voice deliberately. Chapter 3. Around 7 in the evening. My sister returned, escorted by my fiancé, James. She wore a white dress, her face pale from illness. She looked pitiful and fragile. Upon entering and seeing me in the living room, she shot me a weak glance, then lowered her head, guilt etched on her face. James explained. Mia, I really was drunk last night and mistook Rose for you. I locked eyes with him and he quickly averted his gaze. James, you were drunk, not blind. In what way do Rose and I look alike? Care to explain? He was speechless. Thinking about how he became my brother-in-law in my previous life made me feel nauseous. It's good that you're here. I have something to tell you. I was ready to discuss breaking up. Since we were engaged, financial matters and jewelry were involved, and I wanted to settle everything in one go. But Rose interrupted me. Mia, I need to talk to you. Come to my room. She grabbed my wrist and dragged me upstairs without waiting for my response. She looked at me. Her eyes were red, like a little rabbit that had been wronged. She hesitated for a moment. Her voice came out soft. Mia, I'm sorry. Mom just called me, and I just found out how ridiculous she has been. She actually asked you to break off your engagement with James for me. I know you've always liked him. Her eyes brimmed with tears. Who knows what game she was playing this time? I looked at her coldly. She blinked, her tears spilling over. Mia, I never wanted to come between you two. I wanted to keep my feelings for James to myself, but you know my health isn't good. Men from good families avoid me, but James doesn't mind. You're so beautiful and have such a great figure. You can find a man 1,000 times better than James. Please pity your sister and let me have him, okay? She looked at me earnestly. Seeing that I didn't respond, she tentatively added. When you break up with James, could you say you've already found someone else? I'm afraid he might still have feelings for you even after you break up. Chapter 4. I almost laughed in disbelief. Not only was her kidney failing, but her brain seemed to be malfunctioning too. Was it my fault she was sick? Why should I relinquish everything she wanted? And she even wanted me to admit to cheating? It was absurd. I raised an eyebrow and couldn't help but mock. James told you he doesn't mind? How exactly did he say it? Did you, as my older sister, ask your future brother-in-law if he minds having a sick sister-in-law? Or did you ask if he's willing to marry you? Am I part of your little game? Seeing my barrage of questions, she bit her lip and shook her head in panic. Tears flowed from her reddened eyes like broken pearls. As if my inquiries had deeply humiliated her. She trembled, explaining, Mia, it's not like that. I never meant to hurt you. I just love James too much. I only asked you to say you were with someone else so he could completely let go of you. After all, you've been with him for so long, and I'm afraid? But her explanation only made me feel sick. Looking at her innocent face, I spat out. Get out. Stop making me feel nauseous. She looked stunned, her mouth agape, then covered her face and began to cry. Rose turned and left the room. Just as she stepped out, there was a loud thud. I went to check what had happened. Rose had fallen flat on the ground. She must have hit her mouth because blood was flowing from her lips. James rushed upstairs and picked up my sister. Rose, what happened? How did you fall? His eyes were filled with concern and pity. Rose said nothing, merely casting a resentful glance at me. My mother, who had been hiding in her room, rushed out when she heard the commotion. Seeing the scene before her, she immediately lunged at me, grabbing my hair. I felt as if my scalp was being ripped off. What did you do to Rose? Didn't you agree to break up with James? What are you trying to pull now? Chapter 5. My mom released my hair and shoved me hard, causing me to stumble and nearly fall. Even after living another life, her blatant favoritism still left me feeling desolate. James paused, taken aback by my mom's words. He furrowed his brow and looked at me. You want to break off the engagement? Just because of last night? I told you, I was just drunk. I hadn't even had the chance to respond. Rose cried out in pain, interrupting me. It hurts. Immediately, James's attention shifted to the injured woman in his arms. Rose's mouth was stained with blood. She managed to say, Mom, James, I tripped and fell. It has nothing to do with Mia. Don't blame her. Her pearly teeth, now tinged with red, made her look fragile and tragic. My mom bent down, inspecting her wounds, scolding. What are you defending her for? The floor is flat, and there's nothing here. You've lived here for years, how could you trip? She shot me a fierce glare. Her words implied I had deliberately caused Rose to fall. James, hearing this, looked at me in disbelief and anger. Mia, how could you be so cruel? If you're angry, take it out on me, not Rose. Her health is already fragile. Last night was my fault. If you're upset, blame me. I rolled my eyes. Did he really think I only competed with women and wouldn't hurt him? If you're blind, check the house's surveillance. When she fell, I was in my room and didn't touch her. My mom persisted. Even if you didn't push her, you must have said something hurtful. She couldn't handle it and fell. Are you satisfied seeing her like this? Taking a deep breath, I forced myself to suppress my anger. I was on the verge of repeating the mistakes of my past life. Arguing with them was pointless. I needed to distance myself. I softened my tone and apologized. I'm sorry. It was my fault. I shouldn't have upset my sister. I'll be more careful in the future. Turning to James, I said, Since you and my sister love each other, I'll let you be together. He tried to explain, but I looked directly at my mom. Mom, is there anything else I need to give my sister? Let's settle everything today to avoid future complications. Rose's face went pale. My mom trembled, glaring at me with reproach, likely blaming me for saying such things in front of James. I pretended not to notice. James, angered, retorted. Mia, do you see me as an object? Something you can give away? I scanned him from head to toe, noting how he still held my sister tightly. What do I think of you? I scoffed. I think of you as my brother-in-law. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. I'll return everything your family sent for the engagement. James stood frozen in disbelief. A month later, my sister got engaged to James as she wished. Unlike the secret engagement of my previous life, this time it was grand, with dozens of media outlets invited. My dad announced that James was the future head of his company. Though some relatives and friends found it strange that he had been engaged to me just 6 months prior, they kept quiet, seeing my parents' support for the new couple. In my previous life, under public pressure, my sister could only have a secret engagement with James. Despite only inviting close family and friends, I caused a scene, overturning 2 tables of drinks. The engagement turned into a farce. My sister was furious with me. I played a recording repeatedly, exposing her betrayal with James. Feeling humiliated, my sister jumped from the 2nd floor in anger. Her already serious kidney disease worsened, leading to kidney failure and the need for a transplant. My parents then considered giving my kidneys to her. Years prior, my dad had taken me for a kidney match test for her, but her condition was manageable at the time. I remember that day was during the Ghost Festival. My mom called, saying their car broke down while visiting my grandparents' graves. It was getting dark, and they wanted me to pick them up. Without thinking, I drove over. Had I been more alert, I would have realized they should have called for roadside assistance, not their daughter who couldn't change a tire. As I neared their location, 2 bright headlights blinded me. I couldn't see the road ahead. A large truck barreled toward me. I was severely injured and sent to the hospital, where the doctors issued a critical condition notice, advising my parents to prepare for the worst. They immediately requested to end treatment. The whole family waited outside my room for me to die. After I stopped breathing, both of my kidneys were taken for my sister. In my previous life, I couldn't believe my parents had orchestrated everything. Even a tiger won't eat its cubs. They might not love me, but I was their biological daughter. Even as a spirit, I tried to convince myself it was just an accident. Until they discarded my ashes into a filthy ditch. Chapter 6. I moved out and rented a one-bedroom apartment near my office. James left his former company to work as my dad's assistant. Meanwhile, my sister, buoyed by everyone's blessings for her relationship with James, let herself go completely. I often saw her vibrant life on social media. Exquisite dishes. Dancing at music festivals. Thrilling rides at amusement parks. My aunt, who also had polycystic kidney disease, frequently advised her in the comments, reminding her to control her protein and salt intake and avoid risky activities. But my sister ignored all of it and never replied. My parents, seeing my sister's health hadn't affected her life for over 20 years, gradually relaxed their vigilance. This time, I no longer consumed myself with concern for her health. Her reckless behavior showed she considered my kidneys as a backup plan. Even if she needed a transplant, she had me as her sister. Unfortunately, she wouldn't have that opportunity this time. I refused to give it to her. Using knowledge from my previous life, I formed a live streaming team and hired drama students to create short films. I wrote the scripts myself. Having watched countless short dramas before, I was familiar with all the tricks. When my dad heard from my aunt about my media company, he mocked. Playing house. If she can make a name for herself, I'll write my name backward. He never took me seriously. Even the promised $10,000 for my company never materialized. At this time, short video platforms were just emerging, and he had no idea how powerful they would become in the future. Chapter 7. My sister and James's wedding was approaching. But she was suddenly hospitalized due to her worsening kidney condition. My parents hurried to the hospital and informed me on the way. I decided to go, mainly to assess how severe her condition was. If she truly needed a transplant, and my parents attempted to create another accident. I needed to be prepared. My sister lay on the hospital bed, her face pale, stripped of the vibrancy she showcased on social media. My parents were worried, rushing to the doctor's office multiple times. Once assured she was out of danger, they finally relaxed. James looked uneasy. He blocked my path in the hallway, seemingly wanting to ask me something. My parents spotted this as they exited the doctor's office. My dad stormed over and slapped me hard. I was stunned. Mia, your sister is in the hospital, and you have the nerve to flirt with her fiancé here. Do you have no shame? Nurses and patients cast curious glances my way. I felt my cheek with my tongue but stayed silent. James was shocked. He quickly tried to explain. You misunderstood. I wanted to ask Mia about Rose. But my dad, still furious, retorted. What do you need to ask her? She knows nothing. James frowned, clearly conflicted. Rose's hospitalization made me realize she has hereditary polycystic kidney disease. I researched online, and this condition usually isn't advised for childbirth. It's dangerous for the mother and likely to be passed to the child. But the Zhou family has been single line for 3 generations. This revelation made my parents shift uncomfortably. They had previously concealed this from James, intending to delay the truth until after my sister's wedding. Chapter 8. In reality, Rose's condition truly made pregnancy unsuitable. However, in my previous life, she did have a son. That was because she successfully transplanted both of my healthy kidneys. But in this life, she wouldn't be so lucky. What did she say to you? My dad asked James, though his eyes were fixed on me. I hadn't even started asking when you came over and slapped her. My dad's expression softened a bit upon hearing this. Instead of answering James' question, he turned to scold me. Your sister is so sick, and you're not taking care of her in the hospital. What are you doing here? What kind of sister are you? Even though I did nothing, my dad still found a way to blame me. My mom also scolded me. You were living at home just fine. Why did you suddenly move out? If you were at home to remind your sister to take care of herself, she wouldn't be in the hospital now. James looked at my parents stunned. Probably the first time he experienced how absurdly biased parents could be. He spoke up for me. This isn't Mia's fault. Rose said she was fine. I didn't understand her condition either. It's my fault for not taking care of her. Don't worry, I'll make sure this doesn't happen again. How ironic. Wasn't James worried about his family legacy? Even in the face of benefits, everything else seemed insignificant. But I saw the glint in James' eyes and knew things weren't that simple. In my previous life, I didn't move out of the house. By then, my sister and I had completely fallen out, and I had caused trouble at James' company. I stayed out of spite, refusing to move. My parents despised me and told me to leave every day. In this life, I voluntarily moved out. I willingly let them be together and stayed out of their sight. Without the public criticism from the previous life, my sister didn't need to drown her sorrows in alcohol. She got sick because of her own indulgence, and my parents still found a way to blame me. My sister stayed in the hospital for 3 days before insisting on being discharged. The doctor advised her to actively control her blood pressure, avoid strenuous activities, and adjust her diet and lifestyle. And most importantly, to avoid pregnancy. My parents were handling the discharge paperwork. She leaned weakly against James. James, I need to confess something. Although Mom and Dad told me to keep it from you until after our wedding, I can't live with the guilt. My condition makes it risky for me to have children. Pregnancy could lead to kidney failure, and our child could inherit my disease. She looked down. Would you still want me? Or will you leave me? James suppressed his emotions, held her hand, and comforted her. Don't overthink it. I care about you, not whether you can have children. Many couples can't have kids. We can adopt. But my mom might be old-fashioned and may give you a hard time. James, as long as you're with me, I'll endure any hardship. Don't blame Mom and Dad for asking me to hide it. They don't understand you like I do. Silly girl, how could I? Parents' hearts are always for their children. They hugged each other again. Chapter 9. I quietly left the room. Was my sister naive or just foolish? She confessed that our parents told her to hide her inability to have children from James. Didn't she realize that our parents were her only true support? She loved him too much. She was so blinded by love that she disregarded everything else. A week later, my sister and James walked down the aisle. I watched from the audience as my father cried. He solemnly handed my sister over to James, urging him to treat his daughter well. Half joking, half threatening, he said if James wronged her, he would take back all the shares and inheritance he promised him. It was a clear threat. James understood. He held my sister's hand sincerely, promising, for the rest of my life, I'll only love Rose. If I ever betray her, may lightning strike me down. I watched their fake performance coldly. Within months of their marriage, James had a mistress. The mistress even bore him to children. A selfish person like him would never allow himself to be childless. But that's a story for another time. After getting married, my sister calmed down a lot. At home, she either learned flower arranging and tea tasting or played mahjong and did beauty treatments with wealthy wives. I stayed away from my parents and them, focusing on growing my company. The live streamers I signed did well, and the short films we produced sold well on several platforms. Through hard work, I bought a car and a single apartment. 3 years passed in a flash. During those 3 years, I only returned home for major holidays. My company was still developing, and I didn't want to provoke my dad, causing my company to collapse again. Short video platforms boomed in those years. The streamers I signed became influencers with millions of followers. Our latest short films became hits. Even traditional businessmen marveled at the internet's rapid development. When I received the New Media Operations Award, New Media Innovation Award, and Outstanding Creator of the Year Award. Many industry veterans called to congratulate me. For the first time, I felt truly reborn. No longer suppressed, no longer having my nutrients taken by others. I could grow freely and bloom in my brilliant life. Chapter 10. My sister got pregnant. I remembered the doctor saying during her last hospitalization that pregnancy would increase the burden on her kidneys, potentially causing severe kidney damage. Especially in the late stages, it could be life-threatening for both her and the baby. How could she let herself get pregnant? I quickly found out why. She suspected James had been unfaithful but didn't know he already had children. She thought having a baby would win him back. Thinking about how my kidneys were transplanted into such a foolish woman in my previous life made my heart ache. She didn't dare tell our parents about the pregnancy. They would insist on an abortion. She still held onto a sliver of hope, believing that not all polycystic kidney patients couldn't have children. With a mild condition, it was possible to have a family. She came to my office for advice. "Mia, I'm conflicted about whether to keep this baby. I want to give James a child, but I'm afraid it might cost me my life. My mother-in-law keeps calling me a barren hen, and James never defends me. Lately, I smell perfume on him. Do you think he's seeing someone else?" She looked gaunt and frail, a shadow of her former self. I took a sip of my coffee and tried to appear sincere. "I never have a say in your matters. You should ask Mom and Dad or discuss it with your husband. Or consult the doctor and make a decision based on their advice." If I suggested she keep the baby and something happened to her, everyone would blame me. If I advised her to abort, she would resent me for losing the child. She looked disappointed. "I thought you'd give me guidance. What you said is of no help. If I could consult Mom, Dad, or James, I wouldn't have come to you. Forget it. You've always been spineless and indecisive." She angrily grabbed her bag and left my office with a dark expression. Chapter 11. I didn't know what decision she made in the end. Nor did I care. On the weekend, I went to a Japanese restaurant with friends and unexpectedly saw James there. He was in the next private room, loudly chatting with his friends. They were all praising him. He must have had a lot to drink, he was quite drunk. He pounded the table and said, "Now, any project over $1 million at the Shen Group needs my approval. My father-in-law's biggest hobby now is fishing, so even though I'm the vice president in name, I have full control. If it weren't for the management rights of that old man's company, I wouldn't have married his sickly daughter. She can't even have kids. Let me tell you a secret, but don't spread it. The Shen Group is actually just a paper tiger. Many big projects are in the red. If you have stocks, you'd better cash out." I clenched my jaw. As the vice president, saying such things in public could put the Shen Group in a precarious position. The Shen Group was at a critical transition stage, and his words could lead to its collapse. Sure enough. Within hours, negative news about the Shen Group flooded the internet. It even made the local trending list. Shen Group rejectors. Explosive. Revealing Shen Group's real losses. On Monday, the stock market opened, and Shen Group's shares plummeted, causing a market uproar. Coupled with the previous day's news about multiple projects being in the red, it shattered investors' confidence. Within 2 days, there was a massive sell-off. My dad immediately held an emergency meeting with the higher-ups and investigated the source of the leak. It didn't take long to trace the negative news back to his beloved son-in-law. The whole family and company were in chaos. Chapter 12. In just a few months, my dad's company went from thriving to bankrupt. He blamed James entirely, and the two fought bitterly. James exposed more of the Shen Group's secrets, like tax evasion and bribery. My dad, in turn, found out that James had embezzled a huge amount of company funds. Their legal battle was fierce and relentless. Amidst this chaos, my sister's baby was born prematurely, at just over 7 months, weighing around 3 pounds. This didn't bring joy to James. Instead, he pointed at her and cursed. "If it weren't for your dad promising me the company, I wouldn't have married you, you sickly woman. It's his poor management that led to bankruptcy, yet he blames me. This baby you gave birth to might end up just like you. You'd better take this sickly child and go back to your parents' house. My sister was kicked out of the house before she even finished her postpartum period. At this point, my parents' assets were all frozen. They didn't even have money to hire a nanny for my sister. That's when they thought of me. I didn't answer their calls and blocked them all. I guessed she would soon experience kidney failure. They would definitely think of my kidneys. My sister looked pitiful and harmless, but she was the real culprit behind everything. I was right. She developed symptoms of kidney failure within a month, and the doctor recommended a transplant. My parents frantically searched for me, asking me to donate a kidney to my sister. I ignored them. Relatives and friends tried to persuade me. How can you let your sister die? She's your sister. Even if she's treated you poorly, she's still your sister. How can you watch her suffer from kidney failure? It's just a kidney. You won't die with one. How can you be so heartless? I blocked anyone who tried to guilt trip me. They could go to the hospital and get tested for compatibility. Why hadn't any of them done that? It's easy to talk when you're not the one involved. I hired two bodyguards. I didn't know what crazy things my parents might do. I was right again. My parents indeed did something drastic to force me to donate a kidney. Chapter 13. In the end, my sister survived the crisis. My dad found a matching kidney on the black market for her, selling their villa to cover the surgery and kidney costs. They bought a small house in the old district with the remaining money. James ended up in jail, thanks to my dad. He was sentenced to 3 years for embezzlement. Unfortunately, my sister's baby didn't escape the curse of genetic disease. At 6 months old, he was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease. The doctor recommended early intervention. His condition was severe and could lead to lifelong dialysis. My sister had a breakdown. In just a few months, she experienced the collapse of her family business, her husband going to jail, and her child being diagnosed with the same disease. One stormy night, she took her baby to a deserted area and abandoned him in the bushes. The next day, a passing villager found the baby's body and called the police. My sister was charged with abandonment and murder. She was sentenced to 12 years in prison. I couldn't understand her. She risked her life to give birth, only to abandon the baby so cruelly. Maybe she was used to being pampered and never had to sacrifice anything. Facing a child with the same disease, she couldn't convince herself to selflessly care for him. My company was preparing to go public. Over the years, I focused entirely on work and never thought about personal matters. My parents now had no assets. They wanted to bribe officials for my sister, so they asked me for money, causing a scene at my company several times, only to be escorted out by security. My dad pointed at me and cursed. "You're heartless and cold. You'll get your punishment." Remembering how they plotted my death and threw my ashes into the trash in my previous life, I turned back to my office without a word. 6 months later, news came that my sister had died in prison. She got into a fight with another inmate, and her transplanted kidney was injured. She died 2 days later due to lack of timely medical care. My mom couldn't take the blow and went mad. My dad aged dramatically, his back now hunched. He cried and said, "We only have you left. Please come home more often." I coldly replied, "I'll fulfill my legal obligations, but that's all I'll give you." My dad couldn't believe it. Regret filled his eyes, perhaps remembering all the things they had done to me over the years. Finally, he trembled and said, "We're sorry for all the wrongs we've done to you." He staggered away. As I watched him leave, I looked up at the sky. The sun was shining and a gentle breeze blew. It was another beautiful day. The end.